Hi there! Hey there! So today I'm going to be making Masha from Tokyo Mew Mew. Masha is kind of Ichigo's magical robot sidekick. It's hard to explain if you don't know anything about the story. So I'm using a light pink faux fur for the base body, and I'm using a 6-part sphere pattern for the body shape. Making sure the fur goes into the right direction. So I'm going to sew 3 pieces together for the front and then 3 pieces together for the back. And excuse the background noise. I waited till the last minute to record the audio. And now the weather is bad, so I can't do anything about it. So I originally wanted to do Masha with Ichigo, but I ran out of time, so here he is now. After sewing, I pull out the fur from the stitches before trimming off the excess fabric. Next, I'm sewing up 2 sides of the ears. So unfortunately, these ears I'm working on right now turned out to be a bit too small, so I redid them. But for the ears, wings and eyes, I'm using polar fleece. After that, I snip the corners and turn the ear inside out before stuffing it. I used the leftover fluff from brushing out the yarn for Ichigo's fur trim for my stuffing. Before sewing on the ears to the front of the main body. I only sew on one side of the ears for now, so that I'll have a bit more of a 3D effect when I sew on the back later. Next up, the wings. I sew the 2 pieces together, and I did map out where to sew with a marker, which it's a water soluble marker, so it washed out in the end, but it ended up staining the white thread I used for the embroidery. I'll talk a bit more about that later. But for now, focusing on the wings themselves. unfortunately for me, these details are too small to not hand sew, and I suck at hand sewing. So after sewing, I cut off the excess, leaving adequate seam allowance and making sure all the sharp corners and edges are cut properly before turning it inside out. Now, because this was such a small piece with a very small opening, I had a bit of a trouble turning it inside out. But I figured it out in the end and succeeded. But honestly, for a moment there, I was thinking of just cutting out the wing piece and leaving it one layer. But I'm glad I didn't, and I like the effect it gave in the end. So after turning them inside out, I stuffed them with more fluff. Now I also made a bit of stitches around the separated parts of the wings, just to make the separations a bit more obvious. Because of the tiny size, it kind of looked like a blob or a cloud instead of wings. But after that, I sewed on the wings to the front body, similar to how I did the ears, one side first. Next, the eyes. My original plan was to use a glue stick and temporarily glue on the eyes, and I temporarily glued on a piece of paper so that I can have the pink for the iris, and then I would embroider white around that. Well, in the first place, the white got stained. In the second place, it ended up looking really wonky. So until my embroidery skills become better, I'll wait for next time to try something like this again. So because it turned out so wonky, I had painfully removed all the stitches with my seam ripper, and then I just used white fabric for the iris and pink fabric for white fabric for the eye and pink for the iris, and glued that on with fabric glue along with the two blush marks. Anyway, after the eyes were done, I sewed on my front to back, and I left a small opening in the bottom. Then I had this glittery wire. I made a loop and sewed it inside on the bottom that I left open, and then I stuffed my Masha with the rest of the fluff before closing up the top. And then at the top I also made a few loops of my thread so that I can later add a hook, which I attached to a stick so that I can take photos of Masha flying. Although getting him to stay still when he's floating in the air on a windy day was not that easy. Well, it was impossible. And I always remember to pull out my fur from my stitches. So I turned my glittery wire, and then I got out a pink embroidery thread because I didn't have the same color in yarn. I tied the tip of the tail around it and cut open the sides and brushed it out like you would do with some yarn. Because it wasn't yarn, it didn't turn out as nice and fluffy as I hoped, but it's good enough. I did also style it with my water glue off screen so that it looks a bit more natural. And after all that, I gave the tail and the fur on the body a bit of a trim. So yeah, this was a fun little project, although deceptively difficult due to small nitty-gritty things. But I enjoyed it, and Ichigo finally has a tiny buddy. But he's really got me in the mood for making more Tokyo Mew Mew things. And coincidentally, I found another pile of Ichigo stuff I've made years ago. Maybe I'll someday show it to you people, if you're interested. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the pictures. I hope you enjoyed this simple little project and that you think he's cute. Bye!